Boy oh boy, we are back with Absolute Batman issue 3, and things get pretty interesting here as throughout the course of this story, we see Absolute Batman at his absolute lowest. Something that, well, we haven't really seen, at least from this giant imposing Batman that he is. But for now, as we begin, we pick up with him in his element. You know, going through Gotham with his giant bat tank, with Alfred in the helm helping him. But what's really interesting in this part, at least, is because Batman and Alfred in this universe have no type of relationship. They aren't butler and master, no. Alfred didn't help raise Batman in any type of way. If anything, Alfred kind of dislikes Batman. Because as he goes on to say, for 40 years, I pride myself on being no one. The vague shape of a man sitting across from you on a train. 40 years of creating a life in the shadows, all to lead up and find myself driving down Broadway on the hood of a giant bat-themed dump truck. And it suddenly occurs to me, I may actually hate the Batman. Because everything that has to do with this Absolute Batman is so crazy, so over the top that it's even keeping well. Alfred, who has been a super spy, if you will, for decades on the job, on his toes, unsure what to do next or where this is going. But while they are now together, even if it isn't the best of circumstances, Alfred starts to lay out what his reasoning and plans are for the future, because he has something very specific to tell Batman. He goes on to say, in my field, there are rumors of a man called the Black Mask. He's the leader of a secret paramilitary group that serves some of the most powerful people on the planet. And he believes that Roman Sionis, the leader of the party animals, is the Black Mask. But before he can say more, they are interrupted as more of the party animal forces keep attacking them. Because while this giant Batmobile is big and powerful, it is too big and too slow. But as always, Batman is prepared for this. As after pressing a button in a screech of hydraulics, suddenly the entire thing starts to shake. 600 tons of steel shifting. As the entire thing flattens and compresses, turning the giant monstrosity of a machine from a giant bat dump truck to a more sleeker design, more reminiscent of Christian Bale's Tumbler, which is not only very, very cool, but we even see this process start to change Alfred's mind. As he goes on to say, the roof almost takes my head off, but all I can think is, I may actually love this Batman. And now with him getting way much faster, Alfred actually has time to continue talking and explaining what he needs to Bruce. As he goes on to say, if what I think is true and Sionis is the Black Mask, then he's too big to fight, too dangerous, he has endless resources. And Batman at this point, being optimistic as so far there's not been a challenge he couldn't solve, he simply says he'll just build bigger. But Alfred sees right through this, telling him that there is no way to build big enough for this, and how Batman's best course of action is to accept the deal that Black Mask, the leader of the party animals, gave him in a previous issue. And Batman obviously takes offense to this, thinking why would he agree to a deal with his enemy? Alfred instead thinking from the bigger picture, saying Batman should meet him in the middle, accept his deal and step down for a little bit, and for Bruce to try to save lives through diplomacy. Because the deal Black Mask gave Batman is essentially just to buy him out, you know, give him a couple $100 million for Batman to either quit or lay low. Because Black Mask serves some of the richest global elitists alive. And so if Batman takes his deal, he can set up Batman to be something real within the city to inflict real change. Because this Absolute Batman here has done everything in his power so far, just doing it on his own creativity and wit. He doesn't have the billions that, you know, the normal Bruce Wayne would. And now if you give him those resources, regardless of where they come from, there's no telling how big and how widespread this Batman movement can be. And you might be saying, okay, well, wouldn't Black Mask and party animals just get away with it all? But no, Alfred has thought of that too. They will use the intel and the paper trail that a transaction that big will make to apprehend him down the line, Alfred and the agency he works for. So yes, while it might be a small little setback in the present, eventually they will all win, which all in all does sound like a tempting deal, but one, Batman doesn't have time to answer in the present, as now after defeating all of the party animals, the GCPD starts rocketing off, the full entire fleet of officers, as they completely surround Batman in his now giant Batmobile, with them seemingly having nowhere to run. And in a hilarious moment with Alfred seeing that they're cornered, he asks Batman if he has something to get them out of this, and Batman just responds, there's a lever in front of you. And after pulling it, he gets shots out hundreds of feet in the air, as a Batmobile compresses, shuts all of his entrances, and turns into a submarine, and drives off to one of his new hidden hideouts underneath the city, just leaving Alfred to recuperate on his own. But another really interesting thing that this comic and story does is we flip-flop between the past and present, as with all of the other issues we've seen the same thing. Here now we move over in the past with Bruce and Selina, because yes, Selina Kyle has been pretty absent in the present day of this Absolute Batman story, but we do see glimpses of their relationship in the past when they were children, as they are running on rooftops, just playing around as children, but of course very dangerously, as you know, what child is running and tight-roping off 2-story buildings? And as they are doing this, Selina Kyle goes on to give Bruce some motivation, which I think perfectly fits the situation he's in now. As while walking over a tightrope, she tells Bruce, while yes, he could fall and plummet underneath and possibly even break a leg or two, he's not going to, because he is going to keep his head up, eyes forward, and keep moving. And even as he almost falls towards the end, he has people there out for him to help him back on his feet. They elevate him even further, which you could say exactly happens in this issue. While Batman is seemingly falling at his lowest, he does have certain people that help him back up. Alfred, his mother, even down to the Riddler, Edward Enigma, who in this universe, they have a pretty interesting relationship. But moving forward, we see Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne eventually make it to a theater in which The Mask of Zorro is playing. And you know, if you're a Batman fan and know what this means, this is the movie traditionally him and his parents see the night they were murdered. This was the movie they were going to see the day of when his father was murdered, which just absolutely confuses a young Bruce Wayne as to why she is bringing him to see this exact movie. But switching back over to the present, we also see an equally confused older Bruce Wayne as he is talking to the Riddler, who, I mean, I guess he's not the Riddler at this point, he is still just Edward Enigma, but still we see him introduce Bruce to his very, very interesting creation. And this robotic creation of his is something he calls Al. Edward is supposedly trying to make it a giant riddle machine, so you ask it any question and he can give you any answer. And currently he has about 4/5 of all human knowledge. So Edward, wanting to test it, he tells Bruce Wayne to go ahead and ask it anything. And so Bruce Wayne promptly asks the robot the most prevalent thing on his mind right now about the party animals, and specifically how do their skulls work. And so with that, the machine actually does comply and answer. And so we get a little bit of a lore dump and how the animal mask that the animal party uses, they have 3 different functions. 1, it completely distorts the wearer's identity from all global or local deciphering means. 2, it's a wallet for the wearer connected to a highly protected private network of cryptocurrency called the Black Coin. And 3, it provides you with knowledge, objectives, and targets for whoever is wearing it to see, with different valuations. Basically saying that the people who wear the mask and participate in these certain activities, it is all essentially a game for them, a sick game with real monetary rewards. Arson, robbery, murder, each has different value in the Black Coin, the cryptocurrency, and depending on what you do and how far you do it, you get paid in different amounts. We're talking tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars of value, so the members who participate can get quite wealthy quite fast. So that just gives the motive to why these people are doing it. But now Bruce Wayne asks, how would someone disrupt this entire network, this entire thing? And here we see the main downfall of this issue, the main opposition, the main thing that brings Bruce Wayne to his lowest. Because the robot goes on to say, the network is just too expansive for anyone to bring down. There is nothing you can really do. Sure, you could try to take out a local server, but the network is satellite based. And there are groups of these masks all over the world, hundreds, maybe thousands of members. There is just simply nothing Bruce can do. And of course, Bruce is not taking no for an answer. He says, there has to be some type of way. And how Al, this artificial intelligence, only has about 4/5 of all human knowledge, meaning he doesn't really know everything, even if he does know a lot. But very interestingly enough, we see the Riddler try to dispel Batman from even just going down this line of thought and planning, telling him just to destroy the mask and forget it. And no, this isn't some elaborate plan from the Riddler to throw Batman off the trail and keep Gotham in the dark, destroyed by these party animals. No, it's a very far simpler explanation. The Riddler just values Batman as a friend, and how he knows anything with the party animals is a real dangerous game, because he goes on to say, knowledge is vision, and me, I see a lot of it, too much sometimes. It's why friendships hasn't been so easy to find, and why I value yours so much. So this is me looking at you and asking you just to please stop. So we have Alfred, and now even Riddler, his quote-unquote friend, asking him to stop and just essentially walk away from this party animal situation, at least for now. But just at that moment, he gets a phone call from Harvey Dent, who of course, you know, goes on to be Two-Face in the normal DC universe, and it's something I love within its absolute universe, where Bruce Wayne, he is friends with all of his villains in the main DC universe. Now, if that's going to stay that way for long, or if they're going to have some sort of falling out and turn into the villains that we know them as, who knows? But for now, it's interesting to see how this plays out. But Harvey Dent goes on to tell Batman that he has looked into the stuff that he has told him to, and how a lot of the party animal funding comes from a company called JK Holdings. And just keep that company name in mind, because I have a feeling that that is going to become very, very important later on. But for now, we move completely over, hours later, towards the evening, where we pick up with a new cast of characters, with specifically Harvey Bullock, who is currently the police commissioner of Gotham, while Jim Gordon is running for mayor. But he is about to have a very unsettling meeting with the Black Mask himself, as he abords his luxury yacht, which we have previously seen. And as we move over to a lower training deck, we actually see the Black Mask, Roman Sionis, training, fighting against someone who Harvey Bullock actually knows, and who is actually a fan of. And here we see a couple things take place. Firstly, with the actual fight itself, while the Black Mask isn't physically imposing or big or anything, we actually see him hold his own against his giant opponent, which is something I personally love, because when you look at someone like the Joker, you know, he is definitely a foil for Batman and can definitely put him through the ringer, but he never was intended to be this giant brawler like Bane or imposing physical fighter. But that is something that the Black Mask here doesn't share with the Joker. See, while the Black Mask is being hyped up as this giant villain that Batman has to go against, he is also a very, very capable opponent. So much so that if Black Mask were to physically fight against Batman, it would actually be up in the air of who would win, because he takes down this former champion like clockwork, super easily, evading his hits, submitting him without problem, even snapping his arm like it was a twig, all while doing this having a full conversation with Commissioner Bullock. And during this conversation, he calls himself a professional pacifist, basically in his own words, meaning he tries to help bring peace to troubled areas around the world, good places being taken advantage of bad people. And currently with Gotham, his city, it could use some peace these days, which is a very good strategy from the Black Mask. You see, he is playing both sides. No one fully knows his role in all of this business going on in Gotham. He is going to try to get all aspects of the city, including all of GCPD, the police department, under his fingers, in his grasp, as he goes on to say and portray that he is against the party animals, calling them degenerates, utter filth. And of course, with the commissioner agreeing with this, the Black Mask goes on to further say they're growing in numbers between them, and he just goes on to slip Batman in there like Batman's as bad as the party animals. And what they're doing, he tells the commissioner that they have to get things under control now and fast before it all falls apart. Because all of this chaos going around, new vigilante groups as in Batman, Alfred, and others popping up, all of this eventually will just lead to war, which is highly ironic that he is preaching this message of being a pacifist and only wanting to bring peace while literally choking a man out on the floor, choking him out as he is tapping for surrenderance, giving up. But the Black Mask doesn't stop until his eyes literally become bloodshot and Harvey Bullock has to step in, telling him that he has had enough, seemingly actually killing him right in front of the commissioner, taking the man's life as it was nothing more than a slight inconvenience for him, all while having a conversation about peace nonetheless. But cutting back over to where Batman is, we find a little bit more about what Black Mask is planning, especially here in Gotham, and what his true goals are. Because as Alfred feeds him intel, he goes on to explain to Bruce that there are these black sites all across the globe called ARCs, secret unregulated prisons run in conjunction with other governments, and with each of them having a designated letter. Arc A was the first and it was in Santa Prisca. Arc B was in Russia, Arc C in China, and now the biggest one yet just off the coast of Gotham, Arc M, or if you say it fast, Arkham, which really just goes to show Bruce that he's out of his element. Black Mask and his forces, the party animals, are literally building an entire system off the coast of Gotham, his own city under his nose, with Bruce neither having the knowledge nor resources to really do anything to stop this. But cutting back over once again to the past, we see what happens once Bruce got to the theater where Zorro was supposed to be playing, with him obviously wanting to leave, as this just brings him bad memories. This was the movie he was going to see the day, well, his father was tragically murdered. And it's interesting here because Selina almost sees the potential in Bruce, seeing that this tragic event could limit Bruce, cap him from reaching his full potential of what he could become, with her going on to say, this is your chance to mean something, Bruce. You've got the talents that other kids don't have. And yes, while it's scary, dangerous, and new, you need to block all of that out and go straight for it. But even while hearing this, Bruce still tries to leave. And before he can, it seems like all of his other friends were there too, and eventually Bruce ends up staying. Staying while we see his mother there too in the theater, meaning all this was planned from the get-go. And cutting back over to the present day, we see his mother once more, Martha Wayne, alive, well, and in the flesh. And with Bruce one morning just deciding to drop in and check how his mother is doing, as while yes, she is alive here, they don't have the best and open of relationships. But Bruce came here to essentially tell his mother to just lay low. With all of the chaos and destruction going on in the city, he fears for her safety, especially with him being Batman and seeing just how brutal these party animals can be. But for that exact reason, the chaos is exactly why she can't just sit back, lie low, and do nothing. And in fact, she's stepping up as Jim Gordon's deputy mayor, which is the absolute last thing that Bruce wants to hear, because the party animals have explicitly been attacking politicians and officials. So in Bruce's eyes, this is putting her directly in the line of fire, a bullseye, a target on her back. And here we see Bruce took a sip of the despair juice that's been going around. Because yes, while his mother is trying to help despite of the circumstances, Bruce Wayne says, what if you can't? What if it's all just too big? And her response is, well, you just try anyway. That's who we are. That's who I am, and that's who your father was. And Bruce simply responds, well, look how that turned out for him. But of course, his mother is set in stone about what she has to do. And we even see Alfred reaffirming this as he goes on to narrate and explain to Bruce that no matter how brave you are, or skilled you are, or how right you might be, there's only one real thing you can do to keep your loved ones safe, and it's just to accept it. Accept that all of this is just too big, too much, that Batman is in over his head, and that looking up to the tallest of skyscrapers, there's so much he has to dismantle, and then looking down at his feet, there is still so much farther he could fall down. And in part, we see this directly playing out. We see the opposing party that is going against Commissioner Gordon, a man named Hill, and now how currently he has the backing of the police department, and even Black Mask, who is supporting him from the shadows, because tomorrow marks the anniversary of one of the most violent days in the city history. the Gotham Zoo shooting, the same shooting that took Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, from him. And now this year they're not going to do the memorial and whole service for them because of all the blood and chaos running through the streets. It would almost be a mockery. And with Batman knowing this and going over the deal that Black Mask has given him before, $200 million to stand down for 1 week. And if Batman accepts it, Black Mask promises, if you can even accept his word that is, that he is going to cut back a little bit, make things easier on old Gotham. As he goes on to further tempt Batman, saying think about all the good Batman could do with that kind of money. The cars, the weapons, the tech. He will become something larger than life, something epic. And with Batman and everyone around him essentially convincing him that he is in over his head, it's all too much. There's not much that Batman in his current form of what he is, especially without him already having the billions and resources and backing that Bruce Wayne usually does in most universes, he has had enough as he decides to accept and take the deal, copying a plea from his greatest enemy so far. But knowing Batman, surely this isn't the end. Surely he has backup plans on backup plans and has thought this through. But we won't get to see what happens next as this issue and video comes to a close. If you have enjoyed, leave a like, or subscribe if you're new and want to see more of this type of content. As always, this was the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.